Hey, are you a Cambly Kids tutor just like me and looking for supplemental materials or maybe some activities for a brain break during the lesson? Well, stay tuned. I'm going to share 5 of those that I have used successfully in my Cambly Kids tutoring classes. Hi, my name is Celeste and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, I want to welcome you and I hope that you will subscribe, click that notification bell, and like this video. On my channel, I love to share about my life as a wifepreneur, and one of those adventures is teaching English online for Cambly Kids. And so today we're going to specifically talk about some supplemental and brain break type of activities that you can do in your classroom. First, let me share 2 truly supplemental activities that I have been doing recently for my secondary A students. So if you're a Cambly Kids tutor, you know how each of those levels are put out for Cambly Kids. There's different levels based on a child's ability. So secondary A, lesson 46 is about medicine. And I have found that a lot of my students have never been to the hospital, therefore, they have no idea what an X-ray is. So I found this cute little video that I'll pop right up here, and I'll also put in the description box. It was a really great story on YouTube that explained it was very well done, I thought, explaining how an X-ray is done, what you would wear if you were a child getting an X-ray, etc. What I did though, rather than having the child listen to the story, I muted the video and allowed the child to read the text that was on the page. So it's kind of like a book that you could listen to but also read along with it. I just muted it and allowed my student to read about it. And my students have found that after they read that little story, they better understood what an X-ray was and the process one would go through to get an X-ray. So that's a great resource if you are teaching Secondary A, Lesson 46. The very next lesson in Secondary A, Lesson 47, is about science. And I have found that children know what an astronaut is, but they may not be familiar with the International Space Station. So I have found this really neat video from NASA. I'll put it up here, but I'll also link it down below in the description box where you can watch a live feed of the NASA International Space Station. It was very eye-opening to my students because they were able to see how the astronauts traveled outside the space station, really get to see their spacesuits in a more, well, it's a picture, so it's very realistic rather than just a cartoon or a drawing of what it would look like. And they were completely amazed how the astronauts were able to see Earth from their station, and when it orbited every 45 minutes, how they were able to see sunrises and sunsets and cloud covering and the water formation. So that was a great resource to use for Secondary A, Lesson 47. Now I'm going to jump into 3 additional supplemental materials, but they can also be used as a brain break activity, even for my Secondary A or B students. So primarily these will be supplemental activities for Introduction English. And all of those lessons have this song called Daddy Finger, Where Are You? Well, I don't know where I was in my childhood, but I never knew that song. So I really was at a loss. I kind of made up a tune. Thankfully, it was the right tune, but I had never heard that song growing up. So I found this YouTube that actually will sing it for the children and give them visuals of that with the fingers, but also daddy, what a daddy looks like, mommy, sister, brother, and baby. So that's been a fun way to really help those children that learn best through their musical intelligence sphere of their brain to really connect with that. Also, when I go through class and we're talking about mom and dad, I'll just hold up my fingers and it reminds them of whom I'm talking about. So that's a great supplemental activity For Introduction English, it really helps those lessons not seem so stagnant. Kind of gives a little oomph to it rather than you always doing the leading. It allows another form to lead in that. Another one is that most of those lessons have the Simon Says game. And I have found that most of my students in Intro to English know no English whatsoever. So trying to explain Simon Says I found was very difficult. So I use this video here to use in class, and now my students, even with those with limited abilities in English, really have caught on to this game and they love it. It's a great way also to get them active. They get to jump, they get to make different animal noises, hop like a frog. So that is why I also use it for a brain break activity, even for my older kids. I have one particular student, we struggled at the beginning, but now he's really becoming a proficient and fluent reader. But sometimes after reading so much, he just gets tired because he struggles so much, although he's doing so much better than what he was when we first started a year ago. So sometimes I'll just do a brain break. We'll do an activity like Simon Says because he loves to dance. It gets him moving. It lets him listen to somebody else speak English in a different form. And then we go back into our reading, and he absolutely loves that. So that's a great brain break activity as well as a supplemental activity. The third and final one for this section is counting. In Introduction to English, we are teaching a lot about counting 1 to 10. I have found that many of my students want to continue through 20, but when they get to about 14, they go 14 to 17. They forget 15 and 16. And so this little video here, and also I'll link it down below in the description box, is a great way for them to hear 3 times, slow, faster, and fastest, counting from 1 to 20. It's also really a lot of fun because we dance with it. It's really upbeat music. And that's why I also use it for a brain break activity for even some of my older kids. Even though we have gone over and they can count higher than 20, just sometimes getting up and moving around and doing something that is very familiar to my older students kind of helps them take a little break before you dive back into something a little bit more difficult for them. So these are 5 things that I have used very successfully in my classroom, and I hope that it'll be helpful to you as you are continuing your journey as a Cambly Kids tutor. If you are not a Cambly Kids tutor, I invite you to join us. It's a lot of fun, and it's a great way to meet children from around the world. If you're interested in knowing more about that, I've included my email below as well as my referral code, and I would greatly appreciate it if you would use that as you're signing up to be a Cambly Kids tutor. But also, if you are a Cambly Kids tutor, I would love to learn from you, so please comment below about other things that you use in your classroom that have been very successful, either as a supplemental idea or as a brain break activity. So until next time, make sure you subscribe, click that notification bell, and give me a thumbs up. I would greatly appreciate it. And until next time, happy teaching.